Last year, the FBI and the Justice Department finally put to bed their long-running investigation of the 2001 Anthrax mail attacks that killed 5 people and shut down Congress. They branded a mentally troubled anthrax researcher at the Army Bioweapons Lab in Fort Detrick, Maryland, Bruce Ivins, as the perpetrator. Ivins, though, was already dead. He committed suicide in July 2008 after learning that he soon could face murder charges and a death penalty. Now, the recent release of thousands of pages of laboratory files could reignite questions about the FBI's Amerithrax investigation and its case against Ivins, which was built solely on circumstantial evidence. Did the Bureau really prove that no one added a chemical to try to weaponize the deadly powder? Make the tiny spores repel moisture so they wouldn't clump and would float more easily into people's breathing zones? And if a chemical was added, did career biologist Bruce Ivins have the expertise to do it? A Texas chemist who's immersed himself in the case, Stuart Jacobson, says his eyes widened when he finally got to see the FBI lab reports on the internet. He found data indicating that 2 of the samples contained surprising levels of 2 elements.
Silicon, the element silicon was there in very, very high concentrations. That should not have been there in quantities like that. We're talking about 10% in the New York Post sample. And also the element tin, that was very, very unusual. That should not have been in an anthrax sample. But again, it was there at very, very high concentrations, and none of that has been adequately explained. And it's a forensic signature. And with that evidence, one should be able to determine how it was made and who made it.
The FBI researched the silicon question extensively. Early in the investigation, the Bureau put the kibosh on leaked news stories saying that silicon had been added to weaponize the anthrax. A law enforcement official said that the FBI concluded that the anthrax spores had instead embedded silicon into their coatings, not on their outer membranes where they could cause damage. But behind the scenes, the files show, the Bureau was getting conflicting data. For example, its own laboratory showed that the anthrax powder in a letter to the New York Post contained a soaring silicon level, 10.8%. Perhaps not insignificantly, that finding was accompanied by the highest level of tin found in any letter. Separate tests with powerful electron microscopes at the Sandia National Laboratories in Albuquerque found only about 1% silicon in the New York Post powder. Sandia scientists concluded that all of the silicon was embedding in the spore coatings. But a National Academy of Sciences panel that reviewed the FBI's lab reports recently reported that the Bureau had provided no compelling explanation for the conflicting data. Scientists who've bird-dogged the inquiry believe that excess silicon lay outside the spores, just maybe not in the sample that went to Sandia. They suspect that a tin-catalyzed silicone product was added, one that they believe might have led investigators to the culprit. But FBI records provide no hint that the Bureau checked to see who bought those products around the time of the letter attacks. Stuart Jacobson says he can't imagine how Bruce Ivins, a career biologist, could have come up with such a formula by himself.
I don't believe that a single person could invent that covertly, not tell anybody about it, and then, get first-time success in making powders that clearly were very, very dangerous and killed people. I do not believe that is possible. So therefore, I think that the powder with the tin and silicon had to be developed somewhere in a lab, and there has to be evidence of that then at some institution somewhere.
The FBI declined to respond to questions about a possible tin-silicon connection. Bureau officials say such questions are a moot point, that they got the right man. But Peter Weber, a chemist at the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratories in California, who did research on anthrax-like spores after the attacks, has a different take. He says more testing is warranted to resolve these conflicts and finally bring to closure one of the worst bioweapons attacks in U.S. history. I'm Greg Gordon of McClatchy Newspapers.